Hey, what's going on YouTube? Or Storm here with a another deck profile for you guys today. This is going to be Odd Eyes Magicians with just the 3 cards in the 3 structure decks. So I probably will be updating the deck profile at some point in the future, maybe with some new cards, the Luster Pendulums that I own. But anyway, guys, got all that away. Let's go ahead and get the deck profile. So we're just using the cards in the structure deck. We're not using any other outside cards. So what I will say about the deck, without the structure deck, it does have a little bit of trouble getting over monsters that have destruction immunity and stuff like that. So you still might want to invest in cards like Big Eye, Castel, you know, stuff that deals with cards like that. So anyway, out of the way, let's get to the deck profile. So first we have 3 copies of Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. There's depending on if you're running Odd Eyes Fusion or not, I typically sometimes I bump this down to 2, but I've always kind of liked 3 because I kind of like having my searchable targets via Sky Iris. Even if you're running, I've kind of tweaked the ratios between, I've gone between 2 and 3, but in this build, like, you kind of need 3. And then 3 copies of Oath Dragon Magician. Oath Dragon Magician is a pretty good card. It's this level 6 spell pendulum at the scale of 2. Its pendulum effect allows you to cycle back a magician from your extra deck to your hand, and its effect when its normal special summon can add a magician monster from your Odd Eyes monster from your graveyard to your hand. So basically, it just re-adds anything you pitched with Dragon Pit Magician in order to blow up a spell or trap. And of course, it wouldn't be an Odd Eyes deck without these 3 cards. 3 copies of Wisdom Eye Magician. There's a reason why this card is at 1 over in the OCG. It's basically like a Lone Fire Blossom for Pendulums. If you control Perform Pal or a Magician monster in your other Pendulum zone, you can destroy this card and set 1 Pendulum monster directly from your deck. So it's basically like a Lone Fire for Pendulums, like I've been saying for a while when I saw this card. And the stupid thing is, if you have them both in Pendulum Zone, you can destroy this one, set, destroy this one, and set. It's one of the, there's a reason why this card is at 1 in the OCG. It's just, if you open double this, it's basically like, it's just dumb. And then 2 copies of the new tuner monster, Noble Dragon Magician. The reason I only run 2 of this card is because its effect is fairly restrictive. It can only make Dragon-type Synchro monsters, so like you can only make cards like Black Rose Dragon, Clearwing Synchro Dragon, cards like that. But it does work in the it does special. So where it works is you special summon this from the hand or graveyards. That's key because you can pitch it with Dragon Pulse or Dragon Pit Magician. And then reduce an Odd Eyes monster's level by 3 and special summon it. And then you can go straight for your Meteor Burst Dragon. It's a really nice card, but I feel like it gets kind of cloggy at more than 2. And then the vanillas, so we got 3 copies of Dragon Pulse Magician, and of course 3 copies of Dragon Pit Magician. There's these 2 cards. I'm kind of like I've played around with the ratios, like with putting Dragon Pulse at 2 because you've got plenty of low scales, but you have to play 3 Dragon Pit Magician, mostly because this deck has a very few, like between this and Skull Crobat Joker are the only low level scales you have. In the deck, you don't really play Time Gazer, or I think it's Yangsheng Magician is the other scale 8 the deck has, because the scales are too inconsistent. You can't go into them as consistently. And then for the Perform Pals, we've got 3 copies of Skull Crobat Joker. This card is like probably one of the most wanted cards in the structure deck, simply because it's going to be really good in Pepe as well as this deck. It's a scale of 8, but it prevents you from, it only allows you to pendulum summon Odd Eyes Magician and Perform Pal monsters. When it's normal summon, you can search your deck, basically search your entire deck. You basically search your entire monster lineup is searchable via this guy. So why would you not run it at 3? You know, it searches your entire deck. Then 3 copies of Trump Witch. Since you're just running the card in the structure deck, you have to run Trump Witch because it's the only way you access your fusions. I would like this card so much better if it was a level 2 or 3, but because it's level 1, you can't reuse it, and it's just so frustrating not be able to reuse this card. But when it's on the field, you can tribute it, and it will add a polymerization from your deck or graveyard to your hand. I just wish this card was like a level 2 even. I would be like happy because you can't reuse it, which is annoying. And then 3 copies, no style we're getting the spells, 3 copies of Sky Iris. Sky Iris is the new field spell, where you destroy a card you controlled and add 1 Odd Eyes card from your deck to your hand. Obviously, if you're running Odd Eyes Fusion, you know this card searches it, and in the future we're gonna have cards like Odd Eyes Gravity Dragon and Odd Eyes Advent that get added to the strategy. So obviously this card is, but also the fact that it keeps your pendulum zones from being targeted. So not only can they have to MST this first before they blow up your pendulum scale. They also have to they can't castell. Well, this is out. They can't castell your pendulum zone, which is really nice. And then 3 copies of Pendulum Call. This card is absolutely nuts. Like when I first read this card, I was like, this card is just insane. You discard 1 card, then add 2 Magician monsters with different names from your deck to your hand, provided you haven't activated a Magician monster's Pendulum effect this turn. Now it does, and it also prevents Pendulum monsters in your Pendulum zone from being destroyed by card effects. Now it's Magician Magician monsters, so you can still activate. People on DN have tried to have rule sharked me on this, but yes, you can activate Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon if you've activated Pendulum Call in the same turn. Because it's not a Magician monster. You know, things should be simple, right? But DN noobs are dumb. And then 3 MST, again, we're in a pendulum-based format. You know, doesn't really need a ton of explanation. You know, 3 MST is pretty much staple at this point. And of course, our search targets for Trump Witch, 2 copies of Polymerization. Now we're getting to the traps. 1 Torrential Tribute. Torrential's still a pretty decent card, obviously. No, it's not great against Magic Specters, but clearing the board, you know, especially when playing the Pendulum deck, it's not really a neg. And then, copy of Eradicator Epidemic Virus. This card is at 1 for a reason, especially with Pepe being a thing. Being able to tribute off your Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon and just hit all their call the right thing called traps against Magic Specters, hit all their traps, call spells against exactly like Prophecy, and just win. And then 2 copies of Trap Hole Nightmare. You can always bump this to 3 if you really want, but it's a pretty decent reprint. I've always liked the card, personally. And then 3 copies of Pendulum Back. Like I said, you could always tweak the ratios a bit, but I do like Pendulum Back as a card because since we're not running a card like Mist Valley Apex Avion, there will be times where our Pendulum summons all get warninged. So when your Pendulum summon gets warning, just flip this, cycle everything back, and it's kind of like a mini recycling engine for your Pendulums regardless. So it's not a terrible card. Certainly in testing it hasn't been terrible. And the extra deck, you know, it's kind of obvious. 3 Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon. I actually think this card is going to be a really good generic Synchro monster. I'm going to explain, because when it's special summoned, you can, and special summon, which means like if you bring it back with this guy, you can target a monster Pendulum Zone and special summon it, but it can attack that turn. This card can attack that turn. The other effect is that, and this is where I think this card could be a pretty decent generic Synchro, your opponent can activate monster effects during the battle phase. So if you're playing against Cosmos, you attack over one of their ships, they can activate their effects. If you put this out, if you were playing against, say, Ying Zings, they can't activate any of their can't float. It's just a really, really good card. So I feel like it might be the next good generic Synchro, probably. Then 3 copies of Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon. This card is just nuts. The fact it's a Utopia that also can special summon an Odd Eyes monster from your graveyard is just dumb. A lot of times, you know that if you guys played the deck, you know the combo. You did this, special summon a Dragon Pit Magician, overlay this on top, attack, negate the attack, bring this back, special summon the card in your other Pendulum Zone. It's just there's just so many combos that this card just opens, and it makes bringing out Rebellion Dragon just easy as piss. And then 3 copies of Rune Eyes. In my if I was gonna play Vortex Dragon, I'd probably play this at 1 and Vortex at 2. Rune Eyes I still feels unnecessary, but in this deck I always play it at 3. But Rune Eyes is actually a really good card because there's times where your opponent will have a field full of Pendulum monsters, and you'll just need to make some just big beefy monster can clear their field just clear their field. And also when it's summoned with I think a level 5 or higher spellcaster type monster, which is like most of your deck anyways, it's unaffected by card effects. So you can swing, they can't mirror force, they can't mirror force, they can't do any of that stuff. And remember one time in one of my replay videos, he had a Jack my Absolute Dragon, and I made this with the effect, and he tried to negate the attack, and I ran over it and got its graveyard effect. If I didn't mention the graveyard effect of this, when this Exceed Summon card is destroyed, you can bring out another Odd Eyes monster from your extra deck. Which is just there's a lot of things you can do with that. You can bring out a Rebellion or even for beefing. There's just so many things that card can do. But got it out of the way. Well, guys, it comes to the end of the deck profile. Let me know, guys, what you guys think in the comments down below. Stay tuned for a more updated deck list. I'll probably add in, like, at some point in the future, add in, like, all the Luster Pendulums that I own and the Ignister, as well as some of the other support. But anyway, guys, as always, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. This is Warstorm, signing out.